And what is your name?
I'm Tami Isaac.
And what year were you born?
1962.
And where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from North Carolina. I was an Army brat, but I grew up here in Scioto County.
And we asked you to come and speak about what you remember from the day of the 9/11 tragedy. Could you tell us a little about that?
Sure. I was working for the library at that time. I was working up at the New Boston branch, and that particular morning, me and another lady named Sonia were working, and I was inside at that point, and there was an announcement came over the radio that one of the towers had been hit by an airplane. And we just kind of looked at each other and we were discussing the situation and was like, how could you not see a huge tower like that? And so we just kind of went on about our day. And I was outside sweeping, and the next thing I know, Sonia opens the door up and she said, Tami, that plane's hit the other tower. And I looked at her and I said, that doesn't sound right. You know, what's going on? So we walked inside, and within just a few minutes, then the Pentagon had also been hit, and Sonia really got excited, and she had a family member that worked at the A plant, and she was concerned that now that might be a target, that maybe there were targets on the East Coast. And I remember thinking at the time, you know, this sounds like an H.G. Wells movie or something. It was just strange. And I said, well, Sonia, I said, you probably wouldn't be able to get hold of anybody anyway. I said, let me try to call my husband and see if they're saying more on TV. And so I did that, and of course it was just as chaotic on TV as it was the radio stations. And then we're hearing more, the plane was going down. It was just, even though we didn't know anybody in New York, we didn't know anyone at the Pentagon, you were like just pulled into it. You couldn't believe it was happening, that we'd been penetrated and that we were losing these lives, and that, you know, we were forever going to be changed. And I really hadn't thought about our area being involved in that, but it was very much a possibility that we didn't know about at that point. And so it was very scary. I mean, you stood there by the radio waiting to see what was going to be the next thing to happen. It was just, and when patrons would come in, they were very quiet and reserved, and everybody was scared. I mean, they just really didn't know what was going to happen next.
Did you notice a difference in the patrons that would come in over the next few weeks?
There was a change throughout the whole country. In this area, I mean, everybody got very patriotic, and there were flags on the cars, and everybody was donning the magnets, and it was across the country, and it made you very proud to be an American at that point, to be able to pull together. Because like I said, we didn't know any of these people. I mean, I'm sure there were some that knew, but as for myself, I didn't know these people, but I felt very attached to them, and I was very proud to be an American at that point, and I was proud of our country for coming together, and my heart really went out to all the victims. And it just, there was a moment, there was a time that you could just really feel the unity of the country. And I think that was probably the most heartfelt for me. But then it kind of turned, and everybody became very suspicious of everyone. And so, you know, I know even making my travels to Florida, when I would get on the plane, I'd be kind of looking around to see who was sitting next to me, and that was the sad part of the outcome, that we became distrusting of those around us. I mean, we're very vigilant. It seems like now, you see a box laying off to the side, you're like, what's in that? You know, we just don't look at that box anymore. We're more vigilant about what's around us. And I said, you know, I guess that's, to me, some of the things that have come from it that have affected me. And it was just a very tragic time. You know, I was thinking earlier, just like today, the 10th, we were kind of an arrogant nation, didn't think we could be touched, but the 11th, we got very humble. And I think that's the thing that we need to remember about it.
How looking back over the past 10 years, do you think that that day has changed your outlook on the world?
I don't know. It has to some degree, but I think even just the changing times have done that. And I don't know if 9/11 set all that in motion. Maybe it did. But I know, like I said, I'm not as nearly as trusting of people as I used to be. I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, but you tend to stereotype people, and you get very cautious. So I'm not as free as I once was, I suppose. I feel restrained in that I do have to look over my shoulder and make sure that the people around me aren't toting bombs or whatever. But that to me is probably the biggest impact.